Hi everyone, the Shinryu era is finally upon us, and this is my run on Act 3 Chapter 8.1 featuring Kain's FRBT. I must say that this run isn't anything impressive. It is a no boss turn run, but it took me roughly 20 turns to complete the run, even with Terra. But one of the key reasons behind my party setup is the mission requirement. There is one mission requirement that asks you to complete all missions with Kain in the party and without using any friend support, hence this party setup. So my party is Kain with his FR fully ML beat. I actually went in on the free draws and spent tickets until I got 4 copies of his FR. Took me about 580 tickets or so, but I didn't even get his PT, so I ended up just tokening his first weapon so that I could green Kain. The other 2 members, I had Selphie as well as Terra. Selphie is there to quickly charge up the summon meter at the start, as well as to allow the entire party to launch consistently. At the end of the battle, she's also particularly useful to heal the party from the residual damage taken from the HP poisoned effect. Terra is a no-brainer. Terra's there ready just to take multiple consecutive free turns so that we could deny the bosses from taking turns, as well as slowly charge up the FR gauge at the top of the screen. Given that we are in the early Shinryu era, there aren't that many characters we have currently that can quickly charge up the FR meter at the top. So you could potentially build Penelo and use her instant turns to quickly charge up the FR meter, but I feel this may be a bit slower, but it's going to be a bit more consistent because the bosses will never get a turn. Keynote about the call abilities, I gave Raijin call to Selphie, and that's actually quite key because when the bosses reach 100% FR meter and enter force time, they will use an attack called Group Gaze that does damage to your party, but if they are inflicted with Raijin's debuff, that attack will do 0 damage and you will never get paralyzed due to Raijin's debuff. As always, I'll also be including a timestamp in the video description, as well as more details about the party setup and strategy that I took, so you can check it out if you need more information. So to me, this fight is broken up into 2 key different phases. The first is the phase where I slowly charge up the FR meter to 100%, and that's where Terra comes in. So right at the start, I have Kain use his BT+, Terra use her BT+, and Selphie apply Rapture. Selphie's Rapture as well as the Seymour LD call is used to delay both bosses so that you can comfortably get enough turns in to complete setup. And once all BT+ are used, I actually immediately popped summon. The key reasoning behind this is I wanted to pause the boss's FR meter while I can charge up mine, and pausing it right here I think is ideal because below 40% the HP poison effect will not come into play yet, so it gives you quite a lot of turns that available where you can charge your FR meter without taking HP poison damage. On hindsight, I think the only thing I would probably change is not using Terra's BT+, but instead saving it for the tail end of the fight when you can enter force time, so this way you get more benefits out of her BT+ aura. Anyway, now that more or less setup is complete, given that I've used all the call abilities as well as BT+ and Selphie's Rapture, this is where I'll be entering into Terra's LD Meltdown spam. With Selphie at the start, it's actually the best time to spam her LD and Rapture. You don't need to save any of it for the end. You want to spam it early on so that you can sufficiently delay both bosses so that you can get Kain to participate in the follow-up launch attacks as well. One note about Terra's call, I gave Terra the Ceodore LD call, and actually the only reason for that is for the burst healing. You don't need Ceodore LD call, you can just give her any LD call that has burst healing. One good example also would be the Shulk LD call, because that LD call restores the caller's HP to 100%, which is really enough. The only reason why Terra has a healing call is that eventually later on in the fight the bosses will hit 100% and enter force time, and at that point Terra will be at 1 HP due to HP poison. If you do not quickly heal Terra, she will immediately get KO'd by the gaze attack, which is an instant KO attack if your character is below 30% health. So that's where the Ceodore LD call comes in. So for now, that's it for the first part of the fight. I'm just finishing off all of Terra's LD and Meltdown charges just to get the FR meter to 100% while doing some nice damage to the bosses and lowering their HP, so that later on I can almost finish them off inside force time. While waiting for the force gauge to charge to 100%, I guess just quick mention about my plans for the rest of the Kain's arc. I did cave into temptation and use BT tokens for Kain BT here, noting also that there are free first multiples in Kral as well as Braska's event. So if I do get a free BT, then I guess too bad, I'll just have to sell it off for 5 BT tokens. But beyond that, I'm not actually planning to pull for Kral or Braska's FR. My plan, at least for this arc, is to use Kain's FR and hopefully last me up until Kamlanot and Tidus comes around, after which time I will likely pull for both of their FR weapons. Now as far as Ultima weapons go, I did disassemble my unique Ultima weapon so that I could give Terra a 5/5 sword. I did that because we are nearing July anyway, so I might as well just use the free monthly disassemble chance. When we enter July, I might also disassemble my throwing Ultima weapon for either a spear or unique, so that I could give either Kain or Kamlanot a 5/5 Ultima weapon, but I still haven't decided yet, but let's see. So anyway, right here, Terra is already at 1 HP due to the HP poison. Doesn't really matter too much, so eventually you do need to heal her, but you don't need to do that before the boss enters force time. So all you need to do is keep an eye out, make sure to heal her when the boss hits their 3-turn force time. At this point, my goal is, if you look at the turn order bar, try to charge up the force gauge on my side to 100% right as Kain gets his turn, so that I can use Kain's FR attack and then launch him back into the air right after that again, so that I can enter force time with. Unfortunately, the boss's force gauge will gradually creep up to yours, and eventually they will actually overtake your force percentage, and that's because as the bosses gets damaged, their rate of charge of their force gauge increases. And like I said, at this point in the game, you don't really have any characters who can quickly charge the force meter, so it's actually expected that the bosses will overtake. But that's okay, because if the goal is really just to quickly hit 100%, and once there, Kain's FR will cancel off the boss's force time effect. One thing to note, if you did save Terra's BT+, this will be the best time to use a BT plus, which is right before Selphie gets her turn. So right here the boss has hit 100% and entered their 3-turn force time. They did do group gaze, but since they were debuffed by Raijin LD call, you take no damage. This is where it's important to use your healing call on Terra, because if you take another action right here, the bosses will use gaze and kill Terra immediately. There's no way to actually prevent that, it's an instant KO attack. So by healing Terra here, you prevent the gaze attack from triggering, and I just end her turn. I'm actually out of LD with Terra anyway, right here. So my force meter is very close to 100%, and nicely I come into Selphie's turn as well. The last few percentage I just spam Selphie's aura, wall and additional ability to close up the last few percentage points. While you're doing this with Selphie, you do need to keep very close eye on her HP, because if her HP drops below 30% as well, she will get one-shotted by the gaze attack from the bosses. But you can just heal Selphie using either her aura or her drain like so, and this will nicely top up her HP, and this drain attack here completes my 100% force time. So Kain gets his turn, comes down from the air, and I can use his FR to enter force time here. I was debating whether or not to use his LD before going to force time, but I decided to just go straight to force time here. The only reason is I was thinking using his LD after this will also nicely help to charge the force meter a little bit, because I will be entering BT mode with Terra pretty soon. So anyway, using Kain's FR will cancel off the boss's force time effect, which also means for the time being you will not be taking any HP poison damage, which is really nice. This allows you to complete the 10 turns of force time right before Selphie gets her turn. And so right here I'm about to enter Terra's BT mode, so I launch Kain into the air with his double jump. So right here I decided to go all out to try to deal as much damage to the boss, since they are pretty low enough. For that reason, I didn't really hang on to Terra's LD inside her burst mode. I just started off with her EX first to gain her overhead stacks, and then I did Meltdown, and right here I will do LD so that I can spam meteors until the end of her burst mode. This is really to try to capitalize on the force time damage. There was a slight mistake here. On hindsight, I think I should have saved the Meltdown so that I can spam LD Meltdown instead, but I guess this works as well. So that's the end of the force time. At this point, the boss's force time comes back into play, so the HP poison comes in again. But nicely, it comes back during Selphie's turn. So Selphie is able to actually spam the wall and auras as well as drain, as well as her additional ability which also provides some burst healing. So here is just where I'm just wasting a couple of free instant turns with Selphie so that I can get a few Lancets in with Kain. But once more, you do need to really keep an eye on everyone's HP and not let anyone's HP drop below 30%. Don't do what I did here. I used Selphie's additional ability here. I think it's actually better to save it right before you end the fight, so that you can have a burst healing to top everyone to full HP before you complete the fight. Here, I realized that I'm actually still not meeting the HP requirements since Kain did take quite a bit of damage. So what I'm trying to do is I had to cancel my launch here so that I don't finish the fight. Let Selphie get a turn and she can nicely heal everyone with aura and drain before ending the fight. So that's it, first Shinryu fight done. I may try other comps, I'm not sure yet. But anyway, hope the video has been helpful. And if you enjoyed the fight, do leave a like, comment or subscribe. Really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next Shinryu fight. Bye!